日本時間2月19日、米メディア ESPN-MLB にドジャースのロバーツ監督が出演しました。ロバーツ監督は番組内で大谷翔平選手のサイヤング賞の可能性について、さらに今季からドジャースに新加入したカイル・タッカー選手の加入によって大谷選手の打順がどう変わるかなどについて言及しました。また、米番組 MLB トゥナイトでも大谷選手の話題で盛り上がりを見せていました。ここからはその様子を字幕付きでご紹介します。
Well, let's talk a little baseball. And on the field on Tuesday, everyone was buzzing about Shohei Ohtani. Live pitching, full throttle, getting geared up. And there's just something about the way this guy looks on the mound. Matter of fact, Andrew Friedman, who leads the Dodgers front office, commented on that. Watch.
It's hard to say, but I certainly wouldn't bet against him. And the fact that he is saying that, he seems like he's on a mission, pitching-wise. And, you know, whenever we've seen him on a mission, good things happen. And so, you know, for me, I think figuring out what we're able to accomplish in March, where he is as we start the season, what that kind of progression looks like, how he's recovering, how things are going, will inform us a lot more, and so we'll have a better idea as we get going. I do think there's more in there as he, you know, just continues to refine that deep mix, and you know, I think last year was great for him to be able to get back into the flow of things. Love that he got to experience pitching October baseball and just appreciating the toll and how much that takes out of you with the added intensity, all of which I think will really help serve him this year. And what that equals, what it ends up being at the end of the year, I don't know, but I just know I wouldn't bet against him.
Andrew Friedman's so great at his job, and he can watch players evaluate, and he can almost see the energy behind the player. And what he's already noticing early on is that Shohei Ohtani is a man on a mission. He said those exact words, Dan. Why would he be a man on a mission? He already wants to be the greatest player of all time. Knowing that, and he doesn't want it to be a debatable topic, right? He's way better than Babe Ruth in his mind. If he was able to get a Cy Young on that mantle, he finished fourth 4 years ago. If he was able to get a Cy Young on that mantle, it is undisputable that he's the greatest player of all time. True or false?
True. And why I'm expecting a big year. Think about what the Dodgers did last year. They slow played him because they were looking for bigger and better things. And just think about that. That's like having that nice new car in your garage and you don't even take it out. You test drive a little bit, but you drive around the block and you put it back in the garage. And that's what the Dodgers did with him last year. Think about it. Like, we were all waiting. Okay, when are they going to take the training wheels off and let him go? I think one thing you have to do is protect the player from himself. Because if you probably really asked Shohei Ohtani, he, one, would have liked to pitch more, and two, he would have liked to pitch more often than he did. But I think in 2026, the Dodgers are going to reap the benefits of slow playing him in 25 and having a guy that feels good mentally and physically. I don't know how many innings he's going to pitch, but I will say this. I'm going to be curious to see if he handles a big workload. Let's say 145 to 150 innings plus.
Is that enough to win a Cy Young?
With him, yes, because he has so many eyeballs on him. Because he could pitch 150 innings and strike out 200 guys and have an ERA under 2, and it's going to be hard to deny what he does. He already has a leg up because of who he is, the recognition. But I will say this. I'm curious to see if he does have a bigger workload that he had 4 or 5 years ago with the Angels, if that takes away at all from his prowess in the batter's box.
Well, it did. If you go back to the season that Aaron Judge won the MVP when he set the single-season American League home run record, you had a 15-game winner in Shohei Ohtani with a sub-3 ERA. He did not hit 40 home runs that year. He was a terrific hitter, but he wasn't what he's been, certainly not the 50-50 player when he wasn't pitching. So there is a bit of evidence that when he's full throttle as a starter, his offense diminishes just a bit.
I can't even imagine, as taxing as it is to start and to go relatively deep into a baseball game, and then 12 hours, 14 hours later, put on a uniform and think that you're going to hit. And granted, I know it's only DHing, but the mental and physical drain that it takes the day before you pitch, the day that you pitch, and then recovery the next day to put on a batting helmet and think you're going to go out there and hit big league pitching. It's amazing what this guy does.
Sasaki, a revelation at the back of the bullpen last year. What are their plans for him in 2026?
Well, let me tell you, I spent a lot of time in their camp in the last week, and going back to the 10-pack of mounds and watching the group that they have, not just their frontline start, but everybody from 1 through 23.
It's ridiculous.
Man, it is crazy. But watching Sasaki throw specifically, he is full go as a starting pitcher. They worked a lot with him throughout the offseason to get healthy. He got to spring training fully healthy, and now they're also giving him a cutter and a two-seamer.
Whoa.
We know that the base of his pitching is the four-seamer and the split. The split is just crazy because, to me, he can do so many things with it. I don't know if he does it on purpose, but it cuts, it runs, it sinks. It does a lot of things. It's almost impossible to hit. So that base is not going to change. But what they want to do is kind of widen the plate with cutters and sinkers, moving the ball left to right, not just up and down with the four-seam split combinations. And actually, when I asked them about the cutter specifically, because a lot of righties want that to work in on the hands of lefties, they said, no, it's actually a pitch they want for both righties and lefties, work away from right-handed pitchers. So everything right now has been really impressive with Roki. He will be trained and enter the season as a starting pitcher. I mean, his first time throwing live BP, he was throwing 98, 99. Whoa. So he's
so listening
he's got
to
number
you,
one stuff.
I would think he's not throwing WBC then.
Yeah, he's not going to pitch.
He's not part of the WBC.
Not part of it. And I also should add guys like River Ryan, Gavin Stone, guys who kind of forgot about in the Dodgers system because they were hurt. They're also healthy and throwing the ball great. I mean, if I'm another club, I'm calling Andrew Friedman and the Dodgers.
No doubt.
Pick off one
but that's also why they can slow play a lot of guys like Blake Snell, like what we saw last year.
It's a great point. Blake Snell, even Ohtani, who's not pitching in the WBC, he's not going to make 30 starts. We all know that, right? He's on 6, 7, 8 days of rest between starts. So you need this depth here. And they have, Andrew Friedman told me, this is the most pitching depth that he has ever seen.
I was going to ask you, Tom, as we look at this board of all the guys, one lefty, Blake Snell, that stands out. But I want to ask you, when did this start coming about in Andrew's mind? Did he do this in Tampa with, I got to have a plethora of pitching? Where did this start happening for the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think it does go back to Tampa, and I think the way the game has evolved, too, we're seeing starting pitchers not just throw fewer innings, but less often. More days of rest in between. The recovery, because the velocity is so high now, recovery is a big emphasis. If you go back over the last 4 years, the Dodgers by far have had the fewest starts on the 5th day. People think the 5th day is normal rest. It's not anymore. Normal rest is pitching on the 6th day. The Dodgers are not even close. Houston is second, fewest starts on the 5th day. So they make sure all their guys are getting 6 and even 7 days of rest. And to do that, you better have a big inventory of starting pitchers who can pick up the slack, and they do.
Dave Roberts is the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the two-time defending champions in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers. Dave, how you doing?
Buster, I'm doing well. Here at Camelback Ranch. Just finished our team meeting, and then here, and guys are trickling in as far as the position players. We've already had a handful of days with the pitchers and catchers. So tomorrow's our first full squad workout. So like every camp around Florida and Arizona, there's a sense of optimism, and we're in that bucket. Everyone's excited.
All right. So I know you and I have talked about this before, how you were a huge fan of the Showtime Lakers. And you remember the Lakers after they won their first, they won the 87 championship. Pat Riley immediately challenged them and talked about going back to back at the parade. And he would find different ways to communicate with players in the offseason to try to nudge them, right? And to try to push them forward. How did you do that in this offseason? How do you like to do that?
Yeah, you know what? I think that we fortunately, like the Lakers, have the same core of guys, same coaching staff, same players. And so then I think that familiarity is a positive in the sense that they know our standard or expectations. But the other side of it is, do you get, is it commonplace? Is there room for complacency? I think for me is trying to keep that carrot out there to do something that is unprecedented, certainly in our game. I think for me, Buster, it's team, individual, really appreciating that it is a marathon, um, that we work the right way, keep our goals, but I think still getting back to focusing on each day. And I think I've learned that when you can do that and get to the micro, then all the other good stuff falls out of that, all-star games, winning world championships. And I think our guys do a good job of kind of keeping the bumper lanes on as good as anybody.
How do you do that? What did you say to them in the meeting today?
Well, I think for me, it's about um, the the precision, the expectations, trying to raise the level of play and practice. I think that every organization, player has a certain standard that they have, but I think it's important for coaches to try to get players to be uncomfortable with what standards they have for themselves. Because for the most part, unless you're Clayton Kershaw, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, most of those standards aren't high enough. And I think trying to push guys to a higher standard, I think is beneficial for everyone. So I think for me, it's really trying to push guys, make guys uncomfortable this spring and throughout the year. And I'm excited talking to you right now, but there is a certain demeanor that I want to exude early on, as far as kind of uh, how do I say it? I don't want to. It's not stoic. It's not angry, but it's intense, and I want to kind of have some type of intensity to keep guys focused on we haven't done anything yet in 2026.
So, in keeping with that, was that part of the reason why, when you think about, players, great players, Hall of Fame level players being, being uncomfortable and how that can be a good thing? Is that part of the reason why, like, you embrace Mookie Betts' effort to play shortstop,
I do.
right?
I do.
Last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Buster. And I do think that, you mentioned Mookie. So he's a Hall of Famer. He could have sat in right field for his entirety of his career, collected gold gloves, but he wanted a challenge for himself. And with that, it was in line with our ball club because it opened up the outfield. And so for him to take on the challenge for himself, playing second base and then shortstop, I think that's helped him as a ball player as well as helped the Dodgers. And I think even Shohei, you know, I think being able to pitch and hit is something that challenges him personally, which makes him a better baseball, which certainly makes the Dodgers better that he's a two-way player. So I think, some players have that individual, what makes them uncomfortable, to challenge them, but all the while keeping that North Star on. The ultimate thing is to win a championship in 2026.
Another example maybe was from yesterday when Shohei Ohtani met with reporters. He brought up the idea of winning a Cy Young Award. We talked about in the podcast with Tim Kirchin yesterday. I mean, practically speaking, that's a hard thing for him to do because the number of starts he's going to make. But when you hear something like that, how do you take that? That Shohei's talking about winning a Cy Young Award.
But I think that that's something that I can appreciate, when a player talks about things like that and they're willing and know what it takes to put in the work. So, anyone can talk about winning an MVP or winning a Cy Young, but that takes work, intentional, every day. And he is a person that is very disciplined, very focused. And so I like that he tries to set, a standard, a bar, an expectation for himself to, achieve. And so he's checked essentially every box you can check as a baseball player, but that Cy Young is something that he hasn't got yet. So I love that he's chasing that. And I think Yamamoto obviously is going to be in that conversation this year as well.
So what did you say to the guys in the first day? What was sort of the theme, and how did you prepare that?
Well, this was the first day so far, Buster, was pitching. It was more driven on the pitching and the catchers who are in camp. So that's more on, how we work. Pitching is the driver, and that's what leads to championships. And appreciating, we had probably 60 pitchers throw a pitch for us last year. So, you look around the room and most of these guys are going to have an opportunity to pitch major league innings for us. And you don't know who the next Justin Robleski or Will Klein's going to be, and you got to be prepared for it. That's one thing. And then also, tomorrow's the big sort of everyone's there. And I think the messaging obviously is to try to, how we get to where we want to get to. And I'm going to go into that. But also, I will say this, though, Buster, a meeting that 30 major league managers are going to have tomorrow or whatever day their first day is, the follow through is the most important. So there's a lot of talk on the first day of spring training, but the separator is how you execute every day. And when you're in June or when you're in August, is that same message that you kind of laid the foundation still landing with your players? And that's the most important thing.
You had 12 different pitchers give you saves last year. So when you're you're talking to the players, the pitchers and catchers today, you're looking around the room and Edwin Diaz is there. He's one of the best closers in baseball. I don't know if you specifically incorporated him into what you're talking about, but tell me what your first impressions are of him.
One of my first impressions is he's a very good teammate. We dug on him from coaches, players, his former teammates, obviously, and he's a great competitor. He loves baseball. He chose to be a Dodger and left money on the table because he wanted to be a part of what we've done. I think obviously having a guy at the back end makes my job considerably easier. You don't have to worry about matching him up. And then watching him throw his pen 2 days ago, just the way his body moves, it's really special. The ball comes out, it's electric stuff. And so then you can sort of understand why it's so uncomfortable versus right versus left and how he's been so good for so long. So I'm excited to get to know him a little bit more. And it's good when I look around the clubhouse and the field when I see him, talking to his teammates, getting familiar with them. But, I didn't expect to, sign a great closer in Edwin this offseason. But, with him and Tucker, we made a great team even better. So, I tell our guys, what makes a good coach or manager? Good players. And we got a lot of good players.
You and I talked a few weeks ago about Kyle Tucker joining your lineup. What are the ways you're thinking about maybe incorporating him into your lineup? In other words, what's your alignment at the top? And would you ever think about moving Shohei out of leadoff spot?
I think I'm going to keep kicking it around, thinking about it. He's comfortable there. He likes it. Granted, he's going to pitch more this year than he has with us because of his buildup, and he's in a good spot. Right now, I'm going to start Shohei probably in the leadoff spot. So I think with that, that puts Tuck in the 2 or the 4 with Mookie sandwiched in there somewhere. He's a guy that hits left just as well, if not better than he does right, which is certainly unique, and a guy that just grinds at bats. So there's the ability to get on base, drive runs in, slug. So I'm trying to really think through how that works with the dynamic construct of our lineup, but we still got some time.
いかがでしたでしょうか。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーなどを中心に野球情報をお届けしています。この動画が良かったら高評価、チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いいたします。今回も最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。それではまた次の動画でお会いしましょう。